Today we're going to talk about Einstein Bots. What are the prerequisites to set Einstein Bot in your development org and how you can start playing around with it, what are the different use cases, and also we're going to quickly look at a demo and brief high-level overview of Einstein Bot Builder. Okay, so I set up a community, a very simple community with Einstein Bot here. So this is a community for, let's say, a fast food restaurant, and we are allowing the users to go in and put in their order. So that's the chat window here, chat with an expert, and you might be already familiar using the websites and bots everywhere. So this is the similar experience we're looking for. So it says an agent is on their way. Thanks for chatting. Hi, I'm Mobot. How can I help you today? And this is something we can configure inside Einstein Bot. And then I'm just going to pick one, or I can also type in if I want to. And so that's the question and the main menu. And now this is a message which you can configure, and you can ask a question. So in the question, you can also say, maybe you just want to show pick list values, or rather different options that they can choose from, or you can also let them to type in their message. And I'm just going to say chicken. And what it's doing in the backend now is actually there's a flow action that's being launched. It is taking that option of chicken, inputting in that flow, and based on some conditions, making that order record in Salesforce. So it's basically sitting on top of the Salesforce and interacting with Salesforce in real time. So let's look at what it actually created. So I'm going to go back to bot orders. And ideally what would happen is maybe this bot order creation is sending an email alert or a text message to the chef so they can start working on the order. And this is the order that just got created. Nothing fancy happening, just order status is being created. It's new, it's a bot order name, auto-generated. Okay. Another thing I can also do is goodbye, click the end to chat button so I can end the chat, or I can also go to, maybe I'm like, I want to cancel the order. So I'm just going to copy this here. And it will ask me, okay, I see what you'd like to cancel your order. What's your order number? So I'm just going to type in my order number. And now what it's going to do, there's an Apex action that's querying the order from Salesforce and making that query and updating the order status to canceled. So your order has been canceled. And if I refresh this, it should now change that status to cancelled. Cool. So now that we have looked how it functions, and now we know that it can use Apex as well as Flow, so that makes it really powerful to use it for any business use case. You might want to make an API call within or outside of Salesforce. You can do that and bring that results immediately. And you can also have an option to contact agent if they're not satisfied with any of this. And you can have how do you want to rate the bots and all that stuff. So, and today's video we're going to keep focused on Einstein Bot, the logic building. And there is also another capability where you can have users enter certain text in there so that Einstein can then use natural language processing to launch the action related with that dialogue. So the difference between them is, in order to make that Einstein enabled or intelligent, you need to have different intent sets and train the model. And maybe sometimes it's not even probably needed for your business use case. Maybe if you have only 4 options in the menu, then it's always good to go with the logic. But let's say if there's 20 options in the menu, then it might become a little overwhelming to have a menu option. In that scenarios, you want to train your model so that customers can type in free text, and then the bot can act accordingly. So let's focus first on the logic builder, Einstein Bot Builder, the simple one without AI. And what are the steps involved? So since it's a developer edition, and if you are just trying to learn it, you can do so by just enabling a community and create a simple community, and that's pretty much it for the first step. Second step is you want to create or enable chat. So you go to setup, chat settings and enable it. Once you enable the chat setting, you'll get this chat API endpoint. This is what the bot will be interacting with. You don't need to do anything about that right now, but let's just keep that in mind. And then we are going to create an embedded service deployment. So from setup, actually, embedded service deployment, and there's one more deployment called chat deployment. But if you're in service setup, you don't really need to do separately and manually. You can just be on the service setup. So if I go a few back to service setup home from setup, will guide you through a flow which will then create this embedded service deployment, the chat button, the chat deployment, a queue, and anything that you need to get that bot working and using that component inside the community. So you can literally start here and pick a queue name. I think I already have a queue name with that name. So, and what are the users you want to use them for, and if you already have a bunch of, it's going to appear here, the routing configuration. And we're not focusing on service cloud in this video, but this is the different steps, and when you're actually in a project, you will get a better understanding of what all this means. This is coming from your business requirement, and this is where you are going to put your community URL and hit next, and it will actually create all that service deployment. Let me show you what that means. Embedded service deployment, call this one. Just going to open this quickly, and these are the things that it created. Create the button, status is enabled, and you can also brand it if you like, get code. And this is for if for whatever reason you don't want to use the standard component that community comes with, you can use this code snippet, but unless necessary, I would recommend just using the standard component, or you can also use this code snippet for a website if you choose to do so. And next step is coming to that community that we have. On the component, you look for embedded service chat, copy, drag and drop here, and this is what it should look like. Oops, sorry. So if you click on that, you can choose whatever chat deployment you're using. It will appear, all the chat deployments will appear here, and you can configure or make your button label different, whatever you want to do as per your use case here. And one more very important step is, otherwise you will actually run into error, and this will not let, the moment you put an embedded chat, it will give you an error about security. So if you go to setup, go to this gear icon and security, what you need to do is change this security level from strict to allow, and also you need to add that URL that we just saw after we enabled live chat, add it here as a trusted site. So add trusted site, give a name whatever you want, and URL should be that service chat endpoint API, and that should resolve your CSP errors. Any other CSP errors will appear here under this screen. Right now it's issue free from CSP. Okay, so that's a very important step. I spent a lot of time trying to do that, and finally got that to work. Okay, so let's go back to the list. So enable the Einstein. Okay, so enable the chat deployment in embedded service deployment, whitelisted the URL, and obviously since we are creating the Einstein bot, we need to now go to Einstein Bots. So Einstein Bot, if you are here for the first time, it will ask you enable Einstein Bot and then give your email. Actually it will ask you for a service agreement, and then you just hit the checkbox, and that's pretty much it on that, turning on the Einstein Bots. But then you will be creating your own bot. So quickly walking you through that. It's a really easy, simple flow. You hit next and then give it a name. And this all is configurable. So let's say if you want to change those messages or menus or whatever, you can do that after coming back here. So that will build the bot in the background. But that bot is not very exciting. Nothing is happening yet because we just built that. So let's go to a bot that I already have here. So when you are here for the first time, you'll notice that there are different options here: overview, dialogues, entities, performance, and model management. And this is the Einstein Bot Builder. We will see the welcome menu and main menu are usually always there by default because you already selected those menu options in the beginning while creating the bot. And if you selected menu 1, menu 2, if you added your own options there, those all will appear under main menu. These are options. So every option there is a dialogue. So a dialogue in the bot builder is basically what is driving the whole conversation. It's really, dialogue is driving the conversation just like in real life. So based on what the user selects, some actions will happen and they will either close the chat or take you back to the main home page or whatever you configure it to do. And if you noticed here, there are blue options. That means it's Einstein enabled. What that means is we can have users type in values. If they don't want to select any of these options that you show them, like I was showing what type of Momo do you want, any of these 4 options. And since there is this blue thing, you can also type in, and the Einstein AI using NLP will be able to intelligently know that, okay, that's what I'm asking for. And let's not get into that in this video, but something to note is that Einstein needs to be enabled and you need intent for that to work. But since we are just focused on rule-based, meaning this happens, it's literally just think of it like a process builder. If this happens, what do you want to do? If this happens, what do you want to do? Or a decision logic tree. And how do you want to guide the conversation? So here in this case, we started with the welcome menu. Actually, there's also a nice map view, which is really good to like look at your chat in one screen. And before even building that, you do need to think about, if in a real project, that is, actually build this in a Lucidchart or somewhere, Visio, like to drive how should the conversation go. We have main menu and then we have different options. If they select this option, what should happen? I haven't configured anything for these. That's why they kind of are stuck on wait. For order status and cancel order, I'm taking them back to the main menu and end chat after that action is done. So that's what we have seen here. Your order has been canceled and it takes me back to the main menu and end chat. So those are the 2 options. And here what I have configured is like, if the order couldn't be made, then it will take them back to a MOM NA screen, which is basically going to say, hey, you selected something, this is not available, would you like to order something else? If I just want to show you that real quick here, it's going to select this, and then I'm going to, instead of selecting chicken, I'm just going to say something else that doesn't exist. And then it says, sorry, that thing is not available, would you like to order something else? And that's all configured. So let's go back to detail. So I'm just going to quickly walk you what are the different options, right? So welcome, this is the message, you can edit that. Main menu, and then we have under main menu, these are different dialogues, show a menu. And then once the users or customers select Momo, these are the different options. So here, I want to show you actually a different, I'm going to clone this because this is an active bot and you cannot edit it. We're going to go in an inactive version. Okay. So in version 2, this is inactive, so I'm able to edit this. Same concept, just like Flow. And now here, if I collapse this, So you have message where you saw what would you like to order, or you have selected this, great, let's get you some momos. That's just a message, doesn't do anything. But a question has a lot more options than that. So what kind of momos do you like, and you can then select or define the variables. So right here you see this entities and variables. So entities is what type, and variable is the actual variable. So I can say system, and I didn't create this was available by default. So basically whatever the user types in, you are able to save that in a text variable. That's what it means. And just to show you, if this was empty, you just say text, and you can create a new variable or select one of existing. If you already pre-created them, they will appear here. Same concept as flow again, because we do the same thing in flow where you create a variable or refer to those variables in the later time. And the way we showed those options is by using static. So I had all that option, and whatever the option they choose gets assigned to that variable, or even if they type, that gets assigned to the variable. Dynamic is something, if you have dynamic pick list values, you can also do that here. And other things you can do is you can call an action, you can call rules, and what do you want to do next, basically. So, and in action, I just want to show you how it looks like. Yes, abandon the changes. And right here, so if you are in a dialog, if you have a brand new dialog, this is how it's going to look like. I haven't done anything here. So these are the different options you can choose from. First thing, you probably want to show a message. What do you want to do? Question, we already looked at it. Action. So if you select action, you have different action types: Apex, flow, send email, object search. Apex and flow we already talked about. Send email, pretty obvious. Object search is more knowledge search. So let's say if a user wants to know, hey, what's your return policy, or what if I want to return something, what's your policy? And if you have knowledge enabled, you can say, you can search for that knowledge here, and based on what they input, you can return that knowledge article so that user can self-help themselves with, and that will obviously reduce the call volume and the cases that comes into the system. So that's one of the 4 things that you can do from here. And mostly actions are the ones if you have to do anything other than directing the traffic, that's action. Rules is more about what do you want to do next. So if I go to here, I'm using rules to navigate it back to the option where if you don't find anything right here. So these are the flow. So I'm using the flow, setting all the variables, custom value, and also the menu type that the user selected, and then I'm outputting the result, outputting a message, and if it is available or not. So item available, this is something I'm setting from the flow, and if that is false, if that comes back as false, then I am saying, and these are the different rule actions that's available out of the box for you. So you can either end chat, you can send a message, you can say transfer, maybe you couldn't help the customer and then now you want to transfer to an agent, you can do that. In my case, I'm redirecting to a different dialog where I'm saying Momo and A, and that is probably doing something else. So if I go to there, that's where it's saying that, hey, that was not available, what else do you want to do? Entity name, so would you like something else? Sorry, the Momo. And this is how you can also set dynamic fields based on what they selected. So these are the variables you can use inside your message as well. So that kind of gets that dynamic effect. And then I'm doing some other rules, and we can I can make another video on how to actually like step-by-step hands-on creating this, but this was more introduction on how it looks like and how much complexity is involved. So I would say majority of the work involved is actually building those flows, building those rules, building the actual experience, like the flow chart of what you need to happen, what needs to happen in each step. Once you have all that sketched out, building the actual bot is fairly simple as compared to building the flow and the Apex and getting those requirements together. But obviously I hope this gives you a good starting point to try it out. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.